Hi, Taurus. This is Lee at Fresh Astrology. How are you? We're going to take a look at January 2020 for you. If you want your 2020 forecast, go to my membership lounge at my website, which is leesears.com. I'll put the link in below. I'll type it in here too so you can see it. There you go. But go to the membership lounge and join. You get a lot more content. It's like this, except it's just expanded. I do some basic astrology lessons. I do a series of focus forecasts. Right now we're working on the South Node because it's such a prominent player in the current lineup in 2020 and the coming decade and beyond. There's so much happening that's defining in 2020, starting in January. So if you want more about that, join my membership lounge. And in addition to the monthly forecast, you get weekly forecast, you get, any focus, special series focus that I choose to do if I think it's going to help you understand the current outlook. Also, as a member, you are every month in a random drawing for a reading, which I will post within the lounge. So you also get to listen to other people's readings and see, they may share one of your signs, so it may help you out. And if you're learning astrology, learning how to do readings, you can see more what my reading would be like and learn from that if you choose to. So come join me in the membership lounge at leesears.com. And let's take a look at January for Taurus. So, we can't quite escape all the stuff going on in Capricorn. It's just everything in the kitchen sink is thrown into the sign. And not only that, but the stuff that's in Capricorn is linking, in a sort of a mathematical way to other planets, the few planets that are left that aren't in Capricorn. And we also, there's sort of this hot spot time within the month where things really begin to heat up around the 9th of January, really through the rest of January. But, there's about a week starting on the 9th where there's just so much happening. And so much is being defined. That's the thing to pay attention to, is look around you at how other people are defining certain choices they're making. Certain courses of action are being defined at this time. And I encourage you to think about where, we're going to talk about where some of the stuff is in your chart. Think about what in these areas, what are you defining intentionally? It's very important at any time in life, but especially now that people are intentional about what they're going to do this year, starting now, even if it's not January. I'm talking to you at the very tail end of December, you can't start soon enough, being intentional and connecting with your authentic self so that you move through this year in the best way for you. So it's a time not to zone out, not to check out, not to go into escapism, which we all suffer from some form of escapism. I can suffer from working too much. That's a way I can escape other things in life. That's a way I can avoid emotions that are elsewhere, not in my work world. The work world for me feels safe, so it's an escape. So all of us have that. I can also, there's certain, if I'm not working, it's so easy to just start Googling, going down a rabbit hole of exploring different topics. I love to learn and find out new things. So I can get really lost in like a whole deep dive in Google, just from search engine to search engine, result. I can just get lost for hours and I look up and, part of the day's gone. And that's okay to some degree to do that. Sometimes we need little moments of escape and just kind of powering down. And so sometimes that's very useful to do. But this year, starting now, is a time when we can't afford for people to do that. And you can't afford in your own life to miss the opportunity, the strong opportunity that exists for you this year. Each person, no matter what sign, has a certain type of opportunity, and certain doorways opening, certain doorways closing, starting now, and especially during this kind of span of 5, 6, 7 days in January. And it's not like those are the only days of activity, but that's where there's just a huge sea change, if you will, where things really start to get defined and set up as they're going to be not only for this year, but for the coming decades. So it's just one of those times in history, and it comes up every so often, but this is a big one. So there's a sea change, not only in the world, and a sea change, if you're not from the United States, or that's not a phrase you're familiar with, a sea change means it's kind of like the tides changing, or it's like jumping from one era, one defined era in history, to another defined era in history. And so we've been in the midst, in reality and astrologically, these things take decades to set up. And then there's kind of an apex where it's like a watershed event. If you can look up these things, but a watershed event is things are slowly changing, slowly changing, slowly changing. And then there's this apex moment. And then everything's different after that. So, there are certain times in history where you can see that, like the Civil War in the United States. I mean, I'm most familiar with my own country's history. But 9/11 was a sea change event. Nothing was really the same after that, globally even. It really defined the next couple of decades, and even now we're in the ripple effect of that. But this is a even bigger sea change than that. That was just this moment that was, had a global audience, and it changed how people saw so many things. This is bigger than that. And it may not happen on with the way it may happen may not be, I'm not predicting there's going to be an event like that, but this is a defining moment. And so there's the whole global aspect of it, which we can't control. You may see stuff in the news. You may notice that things are changing quickly. There's Brexit. There's all. You just look around. There's so many examples of how things are getting shaped and defined for the future. And there's this jumping off point. It's that watershed event. We're hitting the point where it just, everything on this side is going to be totally different from everything on this side. But it's not like it really happened overnight. We've been ramping up, and Pluto and Saturn have been coming together slowly over a couple of years. And Pluto's been in this area kind of preparing the ground for this particular moment in history that is evolving over, now through January and through this year. That things are taking shape in a way that it's more like they're set in stone. Now, of course, things aren't in reality actually set in stone, but there's some moments of not turning back, moments of departure into this new era where things aren't like they were in the old era. And this will happen on a larger scale, but it also happens in your individual life. There's that kind of sea change going on for you. And for an individual, often this is an evolution and revolution from within. It's something going on deep inside of you, just as much as it is in your mundane activities, through your daily activities, the people you interact with. Those are some variables in your life for sure, and important variables like the job you have or the job you leave, or the partner you have or the partner you leave. The friends you have or the friends you leave. Those are kind of manifestations outwardly of what's really going on inside of you. So it's important to know that you will see external changes in your life that you hopefully are making kind of conscious decisions about. some things may be decided for you, but really it's important at this time in history to notice, to really understand what's going on inside of you and how your thoughts create your emotions create your actions create outcomes in your life. It's really important to understand that series of events that goes on continually throughout your day. You have a thought, an emotion, an action based on all of that, and then an outcome based on, at the very beginning, a thought. This is especially relevant to Taurus because you have the North Node in your third house and the full moon happening in Cancer in your third house. And so, and also you've got Uranus in your sign, and the Capricorn activities happening in the area of your higher mind. So much for you literally has to do with how you think and the evolution of how you've changed how you think. It's also about any new skills you're learning now, any new ways of framing thought, currently. So there's a revolution and evolution happening. It's very personal for you, and it absolutely has to do with how you organize your mind, how you think, what your philosophy is, what your spiritual outlook is, your global outlook, but also from a very skill-based, very practical way that your mind works and creates outcomes. Because, if you track back everything, even an emotion, the emotion comes from a thought or a belief system. It's very, very important that a Taurus begin to understand this and grab a hold of it and learn how to use it for yourself in your life. Hi, is it Orion Star Tarot? Hello. So you're a Sagittarius. So why are you listening to Taurus? Is that your moon sign or rising sign? I'm curious. So, but welcome. I'm so glad you're here and spoke up. But let me know, why are you just hoping to learn about maybe a person in your life who's a Taurus, or do you share, a heavy preponderance of Taurus in your chart? I'm just curious. But hello. So anyway, Capricorn, as I was saying, occupies this ninth house area of the higher mind. You've had Pluto here for a decade, more than a decade, and you've had Saturn here for a couple of years. They're coming together. They're forming that apex. So because this is so close to your midheaven, you can also read it in the 10th house. So there may be some important changes going on in your education and your career. For some people of a certain age, maybe you're teaching, maybe you're ending a teaching career or ending some kind of career, and that also leaves a vacuum for you to begin something else. As I stated before, we can't afford for anyone, and each individual can't really afford to just zone out or check out of life. So even if someone's retiring or leaving a job, there's this vacuum that opens up that needs to be filled by something, and something important. And by important, I want to make clear that you don't have to be like a Mother Teresa or a Gandhi or a Martin Luther King. You don't have to rise to that level of importance. But Mother Teresa couldn't have done what she did without many individuals who didn't have the same fame she had. Martin Luther King couldn't have done what he did without many individuals supporting, what he was doing and listening and paying attention and being open to new ideas and ways of seeing things. Gandhi likewise. And so there are certain people that rise up and are seen more, they're more visible to the masses. But around these people are lots of individuals, we may not know their names, who are very important in some larger movements. And so this is true of you as well. that something about the way your philosophy, maybe your religious outlook, the way you frame, the way you see the globe, the world, people who are different from you, that whole process has been ongoing for a decade and more, is setting you up to be here at this point in time as yourself, given your whole history and what you've learned, bringing the kind of superpower and genius you possess that only you have as an individual. Because I do believe each one of us is born with a specific gift. And it's just in your DNA. It's just in you. It's not something you have to go find. It's in here. And what can happen in life is we get so caught up in the daily grind, trying to survive, just trying to build our career, trying to build a family, that all that creates white noise, and we forget about who we really are. We can forget about what our genius is, our original genius, the thing we're born with, our superpower. We can sometimes forget what that is. We get disconnected from it. And so it's important for you to understand what your true original genius is. Your birth chart will say a lot about this, depending on where the north and south nodes are, where other things are. There'll be indicators about what your original genius is. Of course, you don't need astrology to tell you. You can discover it for yourself just by being quiet, going within. And there are a lot of coaching exercises that can help get you there if you're very disconnected from what your superpower is. And by superpower, I just mean it's the special thing that's just yours, that you're here to use. And by using it appropriately, and from a place of kind of being your authentic self and feeling comfortable as you, you can kind of wield that power in a way that not only makes your life better, but it ripples out. It creates ripples that are positive for the rest of us. And often these ripples are invisible. You don't see it. It's like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life. What's so great about that movie, even though, it's very politically incorrect in many ways, looking at it today, but one of the beautiful concepts, the thing that makes that such a classic is, I think there's a truth that's spoken in this movie. It speaks to the invisible ripple effect that each individual has throughout his or her lifetime. And so all of this speaks to January. And it's, you could choose to focus on, well, I want to know, on a daily basis, when will I meet the person of my dreams? I want to know when the job's going to come in. I want to know when the money's going to come in, because these are the things that concern people. These are where our fears are. These are where our greatest desires are. But there's something much deeper and more important, that even if you got the man or woman of your dreams, even if you got the job of your dreams, even if you got all the money in the world, your life would be lacking if you didn't connect to your North Node purpose and this kind of divinely given superpower that you possess, and to also why you're here at this moment in time to use that superpower. If you could get all the money in the world, you could have the best love life ever, and you would still have a hollow sense of, feeling a little lost, feeling disconnected, feeling dissatisfied, even though you have everything you thought you ever wanted. So it's true. I understand, because I'm human, I understand, you can get in that mindset where you just want to know, like, when will I get the job? When will, I get married? When will, because that's just very human. But what's so important about 2020 and starting in January is that there's something bigger than that. There's something deeper than that, it's my belief we're all meant to focus on. And so I'm doing my best to try to help everyone focus here, because it just seems very important. And, you might still, meet someone that if you're dating or single, you might still have that storyline going on. There's nothing specific to January that makes me think that there's a big love event, except you do have Mars interacting with Venus and Mars in your 8th house. So possibly, not necessarily, your sex life improves. But that's not always the case. But there is energy here and maybe desire here for some Taurus people. And there's some potential with that energy to improve your, sex life kind of behind the scenes. But certainly maybe your imagination is activated at this time. That's really the only thing in January I see in terms, like a specific thing that could be happening. Some of you may have a crush on somebody at work. So there's that. But and in terms of job, like I said, something's coming to an end, to a close. So it could be an education, like you're graduating and then starting your career, or you have graduated, your career starting in a new way. It's that sea change, the watershed moment. So I do think big things are happening here. I think it's a time with Jupiter in this area of the 9th house, and starting the year with the Sun here and Mercury and Ceres and the South Node. You'll tend to gather positive attention. People will tend to see you in a positive light increasingly through the year. But in January, and even now, maybe you get some sense of that. But I do get the feeling something's coming to a close definitively. And it may be a course of teaching, a course of education, a job. There could be some international travel involved here or some international theme. There could be a publishing theme for some of you. There could be a marketing theme. But you're hitting whatever it is, you just picture that watershed where it's been building to a moment in time where, beyond which everything changes. So whether it's marketing or publishing, you're coming to a very important kind of moment. So, think about what you want from this year. I encourage you to think about what you want, and to know that the key to getting what you want is understanding that everything starts with the way you think. Your thoughts, I think when people read The Secret or hear about the law of attraction, there can be kind of this backlash or this like ick factor for some people where they think, well, thoughts don't create things. That's just magical thinking. And I can understand why it sounds like that. And there's also kind of this materialistic je ne sais quoi about the whole law of attraction, where it seems like, you're just trying to manifest through the law of attraction some kind of material thing. And that has a certain ick factor for a lot of people. But you take away the materialistic stuff and the magic, just get rid of the whole concept of thoughts create things. You can still perhaps see, it's very easy to prove that your thoughts create your emotions. Your thoughts and emotions create your actions because you act from what you believe to be true. Your emotions are often triggers that make you act, and then your actions create outcomes. That's a very easy thing to understand. It's not magical woo-woo, it's real, and it's very easy to prove. I could spend hours showing you how it's true. And once people start to understand this concept, it's just so easy to understand that it is indeed true. And what's so cool about it is you can control your thoughts to some degree. There is this quality to thinking, and this is important for a Taurus to know. This is why I'm talking about it. There's a quality of thinking that we can't control. Like, we have thoughts that seem to flow in like a river and flow out like a river. Sometimes they swirl around and stay stuck in our minds, even our bodies. So there's a certain way that thoughts work where it's almost like a river that just flows through, or some people picture clouds that come through our brain space, our mind space, and we can't quite control what comes in. But Where you do have control is what you attach to. Like, do I attach to that cloud? Do I keep it, rather than letting it flow on out, or the river flow on out, do I attach to that, particular, bit of water? Do I attach to that, particular cloud? Do I hang on to it until it becomes toxic? And like there's a stuck quality in my thinking. Or do I just recognize that I may not be able to control all thoughts that come in, but I can choose what I do with those thoughts. And I can create new thoughts. So if I don't like the thoughts coming in, I can notice what they are, and I can just, out of my own ability to create thinking and thought, create new thoughts along with the ones that just flow in seemingly from nowhere. So this is actually important for a Taurus to understand. If you as a Taurus want to change the course of your life in this watershed moment. I'll just do that. Now we understand this means watershed. But in this watershed moment, you can, understand that you control what you do with your thoughts and how you shape them. You can't always control the random stuff that comes in. We can have extraordinarily random, negative, horrifying thoughts that just pop up and scare us or create emotional reactions. And that part of it may feel like it's out of your control, and perhaps it is. But the cool thing to understand is you don't have to stay attached to any one of those things. You can just let it flow on out. Like if it's a horrifying thought, let it keep moving and choose. You can create out of this beauty, this kind of gift of creation. We can create thoughts. You can focus on a different thought, something that's more productive for you, something that's more life affirming and satisfying. And in this way, you can begin to change the course of your life. And it does look like some external changes are occurring, especially with regard to education, travel, international stuff, career, because this is, again, because all of this Capricorn movement, so much of it's going to be tilted toward your midheaven. And you do begin the year with Venus up here. I do think there's some key changes in career for many Taurus people. If you don't work, this has to do with your public life and what people know about you publicly. So there could be endings in marriages, beginnings in marriages, engagements. If you have gone through a course of study, maybe it's that, MD at the end of your name. It's like a public title. Maybe becoming Mrs. instead of Ms. It's the stuff people see about you publicly. So there's some kind of change here. People see you as moving from one phase of life to another. You become identified differently somehow publicly, going from maybe working to retired, or from retired to working. But I would say, even if you don't have like an actual career, there's something important you're here to do at this moment in time. You don't have to have a career and work for a corporation to be living out your purpose. So it doesn't have to be connected to career. It could just be some public stand or stance that you take. You could publicly speak out about things or write about things. You don't have to do it through work that involves a paycheck. So I would encourage you, especially with Neptune in your 11th house and this Uranian energy that's inside of you, you can be kind of a lightning rod and somebody who can galvanize and speak out and get people to listen. So there may be something about that resonates with you. But that is the nature of this January. And I see that some people, oh, hello. Keisha, thank you so much. That is a lovely gift. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I see Yasir says this all makes sense. Hello, Kindred Jazz. Keisha says, hello, what am I supposed to do? I'm very spiritual. I heard the whispers as a child. Wonderful. I'm Taurus, Sun, Pisces, Rising, Virgo, Moon, Cancer, North Node, Capricorn, South Node. So natally, when you were born, You have Cancer North Node and Capricorn South Node. Keisha, is that your natal placement? This is a big time for you, if so, because you're having a type of nodal return amidst this outer stuff that's going on for everybody. You specifically seem to be having a nodal return. And, with Taurus Sun, you have, I think, the last part of what I was talking about. Yes. Okay. So it's a nodal return situation. So this is a pivotal time in your life, even setting aside the stuff that's pivotal for everyone else. With a nodal return, your purpose in particular is making itself known. It's coming up. So those whispers are becoming more like shouts. And deep inside you, you understand absolutely somewhere inside you in your inner wisdom what it is you're meant to do right now. And I would just do exercises. I don't know if you meditate or pray or take quiet time, or how you get in the zone where you can kind of connect with that higher wisdom. But you want to do more of that so that you understand and have more clarity around what you're supposed to be doing, because you play an important role, I think, leading people. Part of that lightning rod galvanizing impact that each Taurus is going to have is meant to lead, whoever you influence. It could be a small circle of people, it could be medium, it could be large, doesn't matter. Because like I was saying earlier, it's like that George Bailey effect where in It's a Wonderful Life, where we have an often invisible ripple effect and impact on people's lives. So even if you're influencing a small circle of people in, your community or in a church or school or wherever, or, if you have a blog or a YouTube channel, you're a type of influencer. And so I encourage you to see yourself that way and to connect with, on a daily basis, try to do even just a moment of reflection to just connect with that inner wisdom, because it will guide you. It will show you where to go and what to do. And that spiritual nature that you feel is so inherent to who you are, I think it has something to do with that. I mean, that certainly goes along with what we've been discussing. So I encourage you to be the leader you're meant to be. And you can take it on a small scale. Some people get freaked out when I do, if I go speak to groups of people about purpose. Sometimes people get kind of intimidated because it seems like they've got to be, like I said, Martin Luther King or Mother Teresa. And you can start where you are. If you have a blog, oh, good, you're getting chills. That's a good sign. Yes, good. Chills are good. So that means whenever I get chills, even if somebody else is talking about their stuff, that means, that you're kind of aligning right now with something, with your inner wisdom. So just keep doing that, and it will lead you where you're meant to go, because you have the answers inside of you. It's just a matter of getting quiet enough and finding time to connect. But, I do think it has something to do with a spiritual message, for you to, first of all, understand it and connect, but then through example or through leadership, somehow it will ripple out. And you just never know. Sometimes you just don't know how you've impacted others. You may never understand it, but you absolutely are here to do something important. So just keep going with that. Yeah, definitely. If you're feeling that spiritual call, I think that's just right on the nose for Taurus. So I'm just going to see if I have any other questions here that I can speak to. Hi, Aline, you're new here. Great to see you. Thank you, Yasir. Thanks for being here. So guys, it's an important year. We're in an important time. Stay connected to that inner wisdom, that higher wisdom. You can get, if you identify with a God or, some divine being or intelligence, then maybe that's how you get there. But just, I think that's a big part of your work, because there is something like that lightning rod presence that you're going to have now for many years to come, but it's just going to be very powerful this year. And these are defining moments right now. You know, they really start to, like I said, etch in stone and fix, you know, where you're going. So just be very intentional as you move through January. And I just hope all of you have a wonderful start to your year, and I'll talk to you soon. All the best.